and let us all do we can to build a better future.
It's morning. You wake up, you pour some hot coffee, and you get ready to head to work. Now, whether you're driving, listening to a YouTube channel, going to radio, or hell, you could be having some TV playing in the background too. Whatever you're doing, right? Do you trust the establishment news to give you the truth? Now, the thing is, unfortunately, all of you lovely people are self-aware of how neoliberalism, corporations, the establishment, want to dictate to you what to think. Because again, the establishment, this is the establishment, your politicians, think you are too stupid to figure things out on your own. We here in America deal with it daily. And unfortunately, to our wonderful UK audience, I am so sorry, but even the BBC thinks you are too stupid to figure things out. Because I've got 5 minutes of cringe to share with you. 5 minutes of, I think, what could best be described as the template for Big Brother, the Ministry of Truth. So sit back and get your learn on with BBC Verify. BBC Verify, which is going to basically tell you what is true and not true. Oh, that Nord Stream pipeline? This is, again, a quote from the New York Times. Maybe it's best we don't know what happened to the Nord Stream pipeline. Stop asking questions. Just shut up. Keep your head down. Don't ask questions. Be quiet. Why are you asking questions? Why are you not following orders? Shut up. Quit asking questions. You start asking questions, and there's going to be trouble. But right now, we got BBC Verify. BBC Verify telling you what they're all about. So get ready. Get ready to laugh. Get ready to cry. We are entering into a combination of Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451, 1984, and whatever else dystopian book you want to bring up. Get ready for this.
BBC Verify, like you said, we are a team of investigative journalists here at the BBC. We are also a new brand, and we are a physical location above the newsroom in London. And the point of the team, as you said, is to verify video, to fact check, to counter disinformation.
Oh, how fantastic. You got a great location there too, and fact check. Mariana Spring, disinformation and social media correspondent. What does that even mean? What do you so you're telling me like what's true and what's not true? A lot of fun you are.
And to analyze really complex stories so we can get to the truth of what's going on. Why does this matter? Well, mistruths can cause really serious harm to society and to the people in them. And so we want to show you.
Salty digital dive. You right, so no lube now? Yeah, so the establishment's going to stick it far up your wazoo, but this time it's not only no lube, they're not going to let you take your pants off, folks. That's what BBC Verify is going to do. They're going to tell you the truth, silence anything else, and if you dare question or challenge anything, well, you may not die, but no one's going to see you for quite some time. Again, this is just how you create something that, again, causes more people to not trust our institutions and so much more. And I have to say, I love it. Go ahead. Keep on doing this, Grinch. Folks, we're only 28 seconds in. It gets worse.
Well workings and really help you understand how we get to the bottom of what's happening. And I'm going to give you a bit of a flavor of the kind of work that the team are doing. So we're able to look at maps to geolocate specific situations, stuff that's going on. This is just a map of central London where we are now. And this is
nobody cares. No one asked for this.
New broadcasting house where I'm speaking to you from. And it's not so important perhaps for the centre of London, but it is when we're analysing war zones or what's happening in hard-to-reach places. And there's a story on the BBC website today.
Hey, everybody, they're going to talk about Ukraine. And just keep an eye on that city called Bakhmut. I probably pronounced it wrong, but just keep an eye on it. Don't worry. I got a lovely video for a follow-up for this. But again, I wonder how long it's going to take for the BBC Verify to talk about a certain battalion in Ukraine. Don't worry. It's probably nothing.
today it's looking at Russian fortifications on the front lines in Ukraine, and you can read more about it there. And there are other ways that we also are able to interrogate what's going on, including on
interrogate. I love that they use that word, interrogate. I could see her shining a light in your face saying, "You better not be sharing anything from Jimmy Dore or Hard Lens Media or RBN." That's a terrible voice impression of her, but all of you get what I'm saying.
social media. I have some undercover accounts that I've set up for the
undercover. They're giving out the playbook, baby. BBC Verify. That's why we love you. Look at that, undercover. So, in other words, if you got somebody asking too many questions in your social media group, that's a bot or that's an op. Whatever it is, when I say keep your heads on a swivel, folks, I told you today's show was going to be great. She's an op. There's her fake account. So if you see a person named Brittany, I apologize if you're a real person named Brittany. I'm so sorry. Look, populist, right? 50 years old. Look at that. Oh, wow. I mean, come on. What is this?
BBC's Americast podcast, and we use these kinds of undercover accounts, and these are the characters that the accounts belong to.
Get out the playbook!
To really understand polarization online and how what's happening on our social media feeds and what we're being recommended and pushed to us.
They're telling you what to think. So that means also, these quote-unquote journalists, they're going into group chats, and they'll probably be instigating or saying things. How much you want to bet that these are the kind of people that really say the most heinous things, and then they portray themselves as, quote unquote, belong to another political group? This is how, again, this is the person who's in charge of disinformation and social media at BBC Verify. Keep your heads on a swivel, folks. Be self-aware when you go on social media. Be ready, because it's going to get worse. Here, I'm going to rewind this again. If you're on your way to work and you're getting angry, pull that car over, lovely. If you're on the train right now and you're getting angry, step off the track. No, don't step off the track. Go to the platform, right? Just and breeze in, breeze out. We're going to rewind this again. They're just giving out the playbook.
Front lines in Ukraine, and you can read more about it there. And there are other ways that we also are able to interrogate what's going on, including on social media. I have some undercover accounts that I've set up for BBC's Americast podcast, and we use these kinds of undercover accounts, and these are the characters that the accounts.
And so that's a good question, Mark Anderson. Will the BBC reveal their sources? The source is them, buddy. Mark, sit down. You know the truth and I know the truth. It's their source, but they'll say, oh, it's somebody anonymous. And of course, that Houston guy says, yay! It's going to get worse. We did it. Everybody. You're a winner. We did it. They're giving out the playbook. Oh, BBC Verify. I love you.
Belong to be able to really understand polarization online and how what's happening on our social media feeds and what we're being recommended and pushed to us can affect all of us. And they don't offer us a totally...
Ryan Ragnar, you know what? You win the chat. She snoops through every man's phone that she dates. 1,000,000,000%. Yep. She looks like that kind of person. Be like, who is this person you're hugging? Who is this lady? That's my mom. Who's this other lady? That's my grandma. I don't believe you.
Exhaustive insight into what's going on, but they can help us understand just how social media works. And then there's also investigating other mistruths and the real world harm they can cause. At the moment, I'm investigating the UK's conspiracy theory movement. I'm trying to understand.
Okay, so again, far right figures, local communities, UK's conspiracy movement, alternative media. Hey, that's us, independent media, conspiracy theory newspaper, foreign links, funding. They're making up a list, folks. Hey, here's your homework assignment, especially to our wonderful UK audience. I don't know how you magnificent bastards are going to pull it off, but try and get BBC Verify to fall apart. Like, try and get out all their catfish profiles. If you could do that, Like, end this. This. If you are a citizen in the United Kingdom, this should piss you off beyond belief. You should be foaming at the mouth, furious. The BBC Verify is creating fake accounts to instigate stuff, to go further. This is an abuse of power. This is wrong.
More about how it's evolved and intensified since the pandemic here in the UK. I'm looking at the alternative media that finds itself at the heart of this movement, and a conspiracy theory newspaper that's a part of that as well. I'm looking at the way that alternative media is funded. I'm looking at its impact on local
alternative media, how it's funded. You want to know what she means to say? Independent media. Independent media is self-funded and supported by the people. Okay, there. But she's trying to make a bigger and nothing burger. Alternative media is foreign. It's funded by Russia or China. It's supported by somebody.
Communities. I'm looking at its connections with far-right figures and also its foreign links. That's for a podcast series that will be coming out in June. Okay. It's called Mariana in Conspiracy Land.
That's a terrible image. And her face looking down a hole. It's looks like she could be sprayed with crap. I know. I'm a bad person for saying that. My mind went bad. My mind went to a dark place. I'm sorry. I never, ever said I was the hero of the story. But it was 2 T's. This is funny. I mean, that's such a terrible image for a show, for a podcast. I mean, why? I can think of a whole lot of dirty images right now, okay? I'm sorry. You stepped on that landmine, and I have to say it. And if I wasn't going to say it, one of you or somebody else was going to say it, okay?
And it will be available on BBC Sounds Radio.
Shiloh G says, giggity.
For asking that question, could January the 6th or a German coup attempt like we saw there?
Wendy Carballo, I hear you. That's an Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole. Get your mind out of the gutter. I hear you. But it's still funny.
Ever happen here in the UK. So there's a real range of journalism BBC Verify will be doing, and you'll be able to see it online, on iPlayer, across BBC News, on your televisions and radio. So do look out for it.
Yes, great. But here's more from BBC Verify.
Stories like this require meticulous work to piece together the facts. Well, today BBC News has launched a new brand, BBC Verify, which brings together forensic journalists.
This is beautiful. They're telling you how they're going to spy in on you. People of the United Kingdom, you should be furious at this, because right now the BBC is telling you that, and this is from an American. You don't have to take my word for it, but people in the United Kingdom, this is from words from American right now. The BBC is telling you you are too stupid to figure things out on your own. And they already told you that they're creating fake accounts. So be careful with your social media. Lovely people of the United Kingdom.
And experts from across the organization. And one story they've been looking at is the extensive defenses being built by Russia as it prepares for a Ukrainian counterattack. Here's our analysis editor, Roz Atkins.
Ukraine's expected to launch an offensive soon, and here at BBC
this is a terrible set, by the way.
BBC Verify, we've been looking at how Russia is bolstering its defenses. Here's the front line with territory controlled by Russia marked in red. Bakhmut has been highlighted because this has hosted some of the fiercest fighting in the war, and we know that around Bakhmut, both sides are using trenches.
How real are some of these images? Just how real are some of these fighting scenes that we're seeing? Now, again, you know, we've seen governments, all governments are guilty of it. All governments are guilty of propaganda, fake imagery. But how much is real? And what the sad truth is, to my fellow Americans, and yes, to our friends in Great Britain and all over Europe as well, so much of our money is being invested into this ridiculous war in Ukraine. Are you or are you not angry?
As a Ukrainian soldier, and trenches are a crucial part of how Russia has gone about fortifying all of the front line. That process has been mapped by the open source analyst Brady Afric. Each one of these black dots marks a new Russian fortification. And let's focus on a couple of locations. First of all, Tokmak. It's a small but strategically important city. You can see it here on the south of this satellite image.
Wow, you guys are really propping up this war. Hey, is there going to be any kind of investigative report or looking into for any kind of peace talks? I'll wait. But that is kind of a big deal. Like, I don't know, BBC Verify. You gonna look into that? Diplomacy? I don't know. People stop dying. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too controversial here. Maybe I'm asking too much. Maybe that's the bridge too far.
With Ukrainian positions being further north. And look what the Russians have done. They've built a first defensive line, a second one behind it, and then a third one around.
I'm not going to tell the Russian military to do anything, but just to screw us, the BBC Verify, they should make like a defensive line that looks like a giant cock. All right, just so it shows up on one of their fantastic screens right there. It'd be funny. It'd be funny because this war is ridiculous and it needs to end now.
On the city of Tokmak itself. We also know in Ukrainian media there are reports that the Russians are removing civilians from Tokmak in order to further fortify the city. And we can understand all of these fortifications if we look at other satellite images too. In this one, we see furthest back from the front line, artillery positions, then a trench network for the soldiers, then dragon's teeth. Now, these are concrete obstacles designed to stop tanks in their tracks. Also targeting tanks are huge ditches dug.
Okay, so you're telling us what they're doing. They're digging holes. They're digging a lot of holes. BBC Verify. This is what you're doing? So I'm sorry I actually apologize for bombarding you with those people from BBC Verify. So what can I do to fix this situation? Because, I mean, seeing this imagery of BBC Verify and how they're going to be telling you what to think and how to feel, let's really find out what they really are. So I want to pull up this video from Going Underground, which kind of goes into detail about what BBC Verify is. I think you should hear it. Check it out for yourselves.
Any media that dissents from the UK government line on every story in the global south, let alone the war in Europe, they're banned. And then along comes President Assad of Syria addressing the Arab League down the road from where I am in Dubai. It must be very confusing to BBC journalists who've been told for the past 10 years that British, American and French jets bombing his country would overthrow him. So amidst all of this comes BBC Verify. And, you know, the whole world presumably is laughing at this because the BBC is known as a mouthpiece for propaganda. It was on Syria. It helped to catalyze the bombardment of Syria. But director generals of the BBC, too, in my lifetime, had to quit because the truth was being told on the BBC. Alistair Milne was fired from the BBC because he was covering a story that was not in NATO's interests. And then, of course, Greg Dyke over the program I worked on, the Today program, which had our source David Kelly explaining why the Iraq war was on a lie. It was based on a lie. So now along comes BBC Verify, Paul Myers, Olga Robinson, the only Twitter account followers I can see at the moment if anyone wants to tweet at them. And they are supposed to verify what news is coming to innocent British viewers and listeners who obviously don't have minds of their own and need this state government-funded institution which works with the British Foreign Office to distort reality, to tell them what's right and what's wrong.
Again, very true. That's why I wanted to play that video, because, hey, you deserve to have your minds cleansed of seeing that BBC Verify propaganda. And that's all it is. People of the United Kingdom, all over that country, what the BBC just admitted was BBC Verify. They're setting up fake accounts. They're setting up fake people to infiltrate so many group chats, to instigate, to spy in on you. The corporate media is there to spy in on you, to rat you out. Is it no wonder why people no longer trust our institutions anymore? Everyone should be furious at the BBC. Yes, you could laugh at it because BBC Verify is just that, a goddamn joke, but you should be furious. So remember that city I brought up earlier? Got a little bit of 5-minute video to talk about that wonderful city.
The battle for Bakhmut, also known as
Bakhmut. That city I pointed out in that first video. Check this out.
R2 Mosque, has made headlines for months as mainstream networks downplayed both Russian gains and Ukrainian losses, all while Zelensky used the key Donbass city as one of his favorite references in his many fundraising speeches to the West. In fact, back in December, Zelensky told the United States Congress that if they just approved enough money and weapons for Ukraine, then the battle would change the trajectory of the war.
To ensure Bakhmut is not just a stronghold that holds back the Russian army, but for the Russian army to completely pull out, more cannons and shells are needed. If so, just like the Battle of Saratoga, the fight for Bakhmut will change the trajectory of our war.
That kind of language continued into February, when the media was obsessing over plans for a reported spring counteroffensive that was supposed to be launched by Ukraine, and Zelensky was telling EU leaders he needed more lethal aid because Bakhmut was Ukraine's fortress.
Здавати Бахмут ніхто не буде. Будемо боротися скільки можемо. Вважаємо.
Fast forward to present day, and not only has that overhyped promise of a counteroffensive been, well, just that, but now that the Wagner private military group has taken full control of the city and is preparing to hand it over to the Russian military, Zelensky has completely changed his tune, and he now
I wonder if BBC Verify will fact check this. I wonder if BBC Verify is going to say anything about it. After all, that city was highlighted, Bakhmut. It was highlighted in that first video. Will they talk about it? And how many more millions or upon billions of US dollars is going to go once again to Ukraine?
claims that there's no fortress left to fight for.
The Russians say they've taken Bakhmut.
I think no. But you have to understand that there is nothing. They destroyed everything. There are no buildings. It's a pity, it's tragedy, but for today, Bakhmut is only in our hearts.
But
it's only in our hearts of hearts. But will BBC Verify tell us that it's all just a lie? Will BBC Verify prove her wrong? Come on, please. They got to. Unless BBC Verify is just nothing but a load of crap.
I'm old enough to remember when Zelensky refused to back down, refused to stop sending his men to die in the region that was labeled by one Ukrainian reporter as a senseless meat grinder because troops were being destroyed as soon as they arrived. Back in March, Zelensky doubled down on the vow that the Ukrainian military would not retreat.
Zombie in the air. Oh, you lovely person. The ghost of Bakhmut. Yes, the ghost of Bakhmut.
Even as they were clearly encircled by Russian forces. It didn't matter to him how many of his troops were being sacrificed, even as the chief of the Wagner Group admitted that the goal for his company wasn't just about control of the city, but about the, quote, destruction of the Ukrainian army and the reduction of its combat potential. The U.S. also made it clear that it didn't care about the death and destruction, as Joe Biden kept pledging more lethal aid for Ukraine, while Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin admitted in March that the fight was more of a symbolic value than a strategic and operational value.
So that means all of our money was just for something symbolic. Symbolic. All this bloodshed, all these people who are dying. Again, I have to agree with Trump and RFK Jr. End the war. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. It's senseless. It's pointless. It's going nowhere. The only thing that is certain is that anyone on the front lines can and will get maimed, wounded, or die. Simple as that. No debate. No conversation. End it. Diplomatic talks must open up immediately. But because many of our politicians are war profiteers, that ain't going to happen anytime soon.
Speaking of symbolic value, Zelensky's latest fundraising pitch was delivered to G7 leaders during their summit in Hiroshima, where he had the audacity to claim that today's Bakhmut reminds him of photos of the Japanese city after it was destroyed by an atomic bomb that killed hundreds of thousands of civilians in 1945.
Скажу відкрито, що фотографії зруйнованої Хіросіми саме нагадують мені, абсолютно нагадують.
Okay, here's the thing. None of these towns or cities in Ukraine would happen, be destroyed, if maybe diplomatic talks took place immediately, an immediate ceasefire were to happen. As someone, I visited the Peace Museum in Hiroshima, and walking through that museum will change you. You will see the absolute carnage of what the atom bomb did to that city. And if you think that these politicians had any heart whatsoever, they would call for peace talks and stop it. I don't know how you walk through that museum, buddy, and not say, okay, this has to stop. Because it needs to stop.
Бахмут і інші такі містечки. Абсолютно нічого живого немає, всі будівлі зруйновані.
Those bombs were, of course, dropped by Zelensky's richest donor, the United States, which is still the only government to use nuclear weapons. But the truth isn't needed for the audience Zelensky's propaganda is intended to reach. And while he appears to have spent the last few weeks avoiding Ukraine at all costs, he's also avoiding the inevitable, as reports have started to warn that the U.S. could be preparing for Ukraine to transition to their long list of frozen conflicts of the past, in which it still receives funding and support from Washington, just not to the tune of $113 billion in a single year.
Hey, BBC, verify. I need you to verify if the American people are going to get that money back. You know, that's like, again, I never want to hear an excuse from a brain dead, vote blue no matter who, or diehard red Republican voter who says, we can't do Medicare for all. We can't do student debt forgiveness. It's just too expensive. Well, somehow we're able to crap out the money for this war. We're able to crap out money for people to die. How the hell do we pull this off? You got it's again, all these politicians right now. Check out Unusual Whales. Follow them on Twitter, and you'll find out with your also fantastic U.S. Senator and U.S. House Representative just how much of a killing, literally a killing, they are making in stock trades and war profiteering. It will make you sick to your stomach. Check out Unusual Whales on Twitter.
After all, the money is what it's all about, right? I mean, Zelensky has shown time and time again that he does not care about the people of Ukraine, as he refuses peace talks and forces them to remain at war. And if there's anything we've learned from the latest battle, is that Zelensky and his Western backers are more than willing to send tens of thousands of men to their death, also that they can use their lives as fundraising talking points while Zelensky continues to amass even more wealth for himself. And that's something everyone should be talking about. If anything in this video resonated with you, be sure to like it, share it with your friends, leave a comment, and as always, don't forget to subscribe if you want to keep up with all.
There you go. Hold on. I want to pull up her Twitter account here too, because she did phenomenal work. This is Rachel Belvins. Again, follow her on Twitter. She does great work on social media. And has done phenomenal reporting. And again, I'm willing to bet BBC Verify will be even afraid to touch that video because BBC Verify is nothing but frauds. People of the United Kingdom, your media is now spying in on you. They just told you what they're going to do. You should be furious. But hey, my fellow Americans, we already know that corporate media is already doing that to us.